Suicide Notes, Day 3. There are 5 of us, in the funhouse, I mean. Well, 5 kids. There are a bunch of adult whack jobs too, but they have their own ward. We get our very own baby nut house all to ourselves. It's just like at Thanksgiving when all the kids get sent to the little table in the corner. No turkey legs for us, just the parts no one else wants, like giblets. Let me clarify. There are 4 of them and 1 of me. I met the others today in my first group therapy session. I wasn't going to go, but I figured if I show everyone how completely sane I am, they'll have to let me out. The group sessions are held in what they call the community room, which is just this big room with couches and TV and games and stuff. I guess it's where all the crazies hang out when they're not busy being crazy. We sat in a circle on these hard plastic chairs. They're orange, traffic cone orange, like they're a warning to anyone who might walk in. Danger, crazy people talking. Take alternate route. Besides being ugly, they're also really unpleasant to sit on. After about 5 minutes, my butt fell asleep, and I kept having to move around to try to get comfortable, which I never did. Cat Poop introduced me by saying, "Everyone, this is Jeff," and they all went, "Hi, Jeff." Only their voices all sounded the same, like zombies mumbling, brains, and nobody really looked at me. I didn't say anything. It's not like I'm going to be here long enough to make friends. After that, we sat in a circle just staring at each other, just like Cat Poop said we would. Nobody said a word until finally the doc pointed at this skinny girl with long blonde hair who was chewing at her fingernails and said, "Alice, why don't you tell Jeff a little bit about yourself?" "My name is Alice," she said. "Duh. What should you know about me?" "Well, my mother's latest boyfriend kept coming into my bedroom when I was asleep and putting himself all over me. So one night I waited until he was sleeping and I went into his room with some lighter fluid and matches. He didn't die or anything, but I got a little burnt. At first I thought she was making it up, but then she held up her arms so I could see. The skin was red and raw from her hands to her elbows." Alice laughed. Then she bent her head and covered her face with her long hair. "I'm not sure if she's for real or not. My guess is that she just burnt herself playing with matches or something stupid like that. I bet she made up the thing about torching her mother's boyfriend. I mean, that's a lot more interesting, and I wouldn't blame her for going with it. If I did something dumb like set myself on fire, I'd lie about it too. The thing is, I don't think she did. I don't know why, but I believe her. What's even weirder is that it doesn't freak me out. I could totally see why she would set that guy on fire, which maybe makes me as crazy as she is. Then again, I didn't do it. I can just imagine it. Maybe that's the difference between crazy and not crazy." Alice didn't say anything else, so we moved on to the girl beside her. She was almost the exact opposite of Alice. Fat, curly red hair, a face like the moon. When she saw me looking at her, she actually smiled like we were on a bus and not in a hospital. "My name's Juliet," she said, all happy and chirpy like a cartoon bird. "I'm Bone's girlfriend." She paused like I was supposed to know who Bone was, like he was some rapper or actor or something whose name was all over the magazines and I was going to congratulate her on having such a famous boyfriend. When I didn't say anything, Juliet nodded at the guy sitting next to me. The whole time people had been talking, he'd been looking at his feet. He barely looked up now. "That's Bone," said Juliet, beaming like she was showing me her new car. "We're in a band. Gratuitous Sex and Violence?" she asked, as if she wasn't sure herself. "Bone plays guitar. I sing." Next to me, Bone sighed and crossed his arms over his chest. He was wearing a white t-shirt, and he had lots of tattoos, even though I don't think he was a whole lot older than I am. My parents would never let me get a tattoo, so it's kind of impressive that he has so many. I looked at them for a second, but none of them were really interesting. Just lots of flaming skulls and naked girls on motorcycles and stuff like that. He had hair he obviously dyed because it was too dark to be natural, and eyes that didn't seem to focus on anything. His eyes were black too, like his hair. He looked like a comic book drawing. "Which one of you is sex and which one of you is violence?" I asked. "What?" Juliet asked, her smile slipping. "Gratuitous sex and violence," I said slowly, as if I was talking to a really little kid. "Which one of you is which?" Juliet looked at Bone like he was going to give her the answer. He just kept staring at his feet. Juliet ran a hand over her mouth as if she was trying to wipe something away that wasn't there. Someone else started to laugh but stopped. It's not really, she said, sounding confused. It's just a name. She's not my girlfriend, Bones said suddenly, looking up for a second. She just thinks she is. There is no band. I don't even know her, okay? Juliet looked at him and started to say something, but Cat Poop spoke before she could. Why don't we move on, he said. He reminded me of a tour guide at one of those historic places where they take you through in little groups to make sure you don't touch the 8 million-year-old candlesticks or whatever. Why don't we move on isn't really a question, because you don't have a choice. It's just a passive-aggressive way of saying, get the hell out of here, there's another bunch of tourists who want to see the candlesticks. So Cat Poop made us leave the bedroom where Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves and go to the kitchen where they were baking bread just like they did 200 years ago. Actually, he just nodded at the next person, a girl sitting beside Julie. Okay, she said, my name is Sadie. I'm a Libra. I like sunny days and kittens and think pollution and negative people are real downers. Oh, and I tried to drown myself and this guy saved me so I'm not dead. She looked right at me, like she was daring me to ask a question. Her eyes were like this really intense blue, like the ice at the North Pole. She had black hair cut short and spiky and pale skin, which made her eyes look even bluer. The best way to describe her is to say she looked like an evil pixie, or at least a troublemaking one. Bone was next, but all he did say was, I'm Bone, and go back to his feet. I was hoping he'd say more about the girl who wasn't his girlfriend, or what it was like being a walking cartoon, but I guess he thought he'd told us enough already. So then it was my turn. I really didn't want to say anything, but Bone had already done the silent and mysterious thing, and I knew if I did it too, I would look like I was trying to be like him. I'm Jeff, I said. I'm here because they think I need to be, but I don't. There's not much else to tell. What's with the bandages then? Sadie was nodding at my lap. I looked down and saw the cuffs of my shirt had ridden up and some gauze was sticking out of the bottom. Nothing, I said, just a cut. Okay, said Cat Poop. Now that Jeff knows a little more about you, today I want to talk about what it means to tell the truth. That's when I zoned out. Actually, I just kind of settled into this warm, foggy place where everything faded out and voices sounded like planes flying somewhere way far away. I knew people were talking, but I wasn't listening. I wasn't interested in anything anyone had to say. I mean, telling the truth? What a lame thing to talk about. The truth is that I don't belong here. Eventually, the airplane noises stopped, and I realized that group was over. Everyone was standing up. Cat Poop came over to me. You didn't contribute much today, he said. Sorry, I said. I have a lot on my mind. Like? He asked. I shrugged. Like whether the whole boy band craze is really over, I said. I know people say it is, but I think they're wrong. Why don't I show you around, said Cat Poop. This is the lounge. You're allowed in here as long as there's a staff member present. There are usually 4 people here during the day, 2 nurses and 2 orderlies, and we always have at least 2 nurses and a security person at night. Security, I said. Sounds serious. Is that to keep the gratuitous sex and violence fans out? Meals are also served in here, he continued, ignoring me and pointing to 2 long tables surrounded by more plastic chairs. You've been allowed to eat in your room, but from now on you'll eat with the rest of the floor. Food is brought up from the hospital cafeteria. Just like one big happy family, I remarked as we left the lounge and walked down the hallway toward my room. You each have your own room, Cat Poop said, boys on this end, girls on the other. You may not be in another person's room unsupervised. There are bathrooms on either end of the hall. Can we be in there with each other unsupervised, I asked, or is peeing at the same time frowned upon? You'll be given a schedule for each day, he went on. You'll be keeping up with your schoolwork while you're here. We'll see about getting your books and assignments from your school. You're telling the people at my school that I'm here, I said. I was already imagining Principal Matthews giving the morning announcement. Today's lunch will be spaghetti and meatballs, cheerleading tryouts will be held second period in the gym, and Jeff is in the nut house. They'll be told that you're going to be out for some time, Cat Poop said, that's all. Great, I said, and here I thought I'd found the perfect way to get out of that algebra exam. As I told you earlier, Cat Poop continued, you'll participate in group sessions as well as individual sessions with me. Are those supervised too? I asked him. I mean, what if you tried to, touch me inappropriately or something? Cat Poop stopped and turned to me. He handed me a sheet of paper. Here's your schedule for today. You have some free time now. I suggest you spend it getting to know the other people here. Sure, I told him as I folded up my schedule without looking at it. They seem like swell kids. Give them a chance, he said. You might be surprised. I'll take your word on that, I said. You know, if this whole shrink thing doesn't work out, you should look into getting a job at Disneyland. You're good at this guide thing. You'd rock the safari ride. I'll see you later this afternoon for our session, he said without missing a beat. My office is at the end of the other hallway off the lounge. One of the nurses will bring you down there. After he was gone, I unfolded the schedule and looked at it. My therapy session was scheduled for 3:30. I looked at the clock on the wall. It was only 12:30, which meant I had 3 hours to kill before the amazing cat poop tried to open my head and see what was inside. 3 hours to spend doing nothing. I have arts and crafts at 1 o'clock. I looked up and saw Sadie standing by me. She waved her sheet. Maybe I can make my dad that wallet he's always wanted. I was kind of hoping for archery, I told her, but I think I'm stuck with nature trail and capture the flag. She laughed. Welcome to Camp Meds, she said, where the campers are crazy and the counselors want you to take drugs. Yeah, well, this camper isn't sticking around long, I told her, crumpling up my schedule. How's that? She said. You have a plan or something? Sure, I said, throwing the ball of paper into a trash can. And it's really simple. I'm not crazy. Sadie laughed again. Right, she said. None of us are. I'm serious, I said. So am I, she told me. You think I'm nuts? You're here, aren't you? She nodded. And so are you. You think you're the only mistake they've made? I looked at her face. She seemed totally serious. Then I remembered what she'd said in group about trying to drown herself. She was crazy, all right. And the last thing I needed was more crazy. I've got to go to the bathroom, I said. I'll see you later.